So today we're going to talk about something that millions of young people are going through, a lot of the time in total silence. We're talking about eating disorders. And look, I know it's a heavy topic, but really understanding it is the very first step toward compassion and finding real hope. So let's dive in and take a look at what this hidden battle actually looks like. Just think about the people you see every day, your friends, your classmates. So many people walk around with a smile, going through the motions of a normal day. But underneath it all, they're in the middle of this constant, invisible war. A war with food, a war for control, and a war with the person they see staring back at them in the mirror.
So where does all this pressure even come from? Well, a huge part of it is just baked into the world we live in now. You know that endless scroll on your phone? It just keeps feeding you these images of perfect lives, perfect bodies, and it fuels this nonstop comparison game. For some, all of that pressure can really build into a perfect storm, one that develops into a serious mental health condition.
Okay, to really wrap our heads around this struggle, we need to get a little more specific. Let's break down two of the most common eating disorders, especially among teens: anorexia nervosa and bulimia nervosa.
First up is anorexia nervosa. It really boils down to three key things. First, restricting food so much that it leads to a significantly low body weight. Second, this intense, all-consuming fear of gaining any weight at all. And third, a distorted body image, which means a person might look in the mirror and see themselves as overweight, even when they're dangerously underweight. In this quote, wow, it just captures the whole heartbreaking trap of this illness. The goal is supposed to be confidence, right? But the chase just leaves you feeling more and more empty. It's a vicious cycle that just feeds itself.
All right, let's talk about the second condition, bulimia nervosa. This one is all about a different kind of cycle. It involves what are called binge eating episodes. That's when someone eats a very large amount of food in a short time and feels a total loss of control. And that binge is then followed by a purge, some kind of behavior to undo it, like self-induced vomiting or exercising for hours. For it to be a clinical diagnosis, this pattern has to happen at least once a week for 3 months.
This quote right here gets to the very heart of what it feels like to live with bulimia. There's this illusion of control, this idea that you're managing things. But in reality, the disorder is the one in the driver's seat. It's taking over, making all the decisions. It's a total loss of control disguised as its exact opposite.
And this is so important to get. Anorexia and bulimia are not diets gone wrong. They're not a phase someone is going through. These are serious, complex mental health conditions, and they can happen to anyone. It doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, or where you come from.
So you might be wondering, okay, but how widespread is this issue really? Well, the numbers, they might actually surprise you. Let's put this all into perspective.
According to the National Institute of Mental Health, almost 4% of teenage girls will experience an eating disorder that's diagnosable. Now, 3.8% might not sound like a huge number at first, but think about it. That translates to millions of young people who are dealing with a potentially life-threatening illness. But here's where the picture gets even bigger. If we look beyond just the official diagnoses, we see that a huge number of people are affected. We're talking nearly 1 in 5 high school girls reporting unhealthy behaviors like skipping meals or purging to try and control their weight. That is a massive number. And to make that really hit home, let's bring it into a setting we all know. In an average classroom with about 25 students, that means 4 or 5 of them could be struggling with this right now, probably in total silence. This isn't some far-off problem. It's right here in our own hallways and communities.
And the consequences, they go so much deeper than just weight or how someone looks. There is a very real and often devastating physical and emotional cost.
Physically, the body is being starved of what it needs to function, and that just sets off a chain reaction of problems. We're talking extreme fatigue, a dangerously slow heart rate, hair loss, and even the risk of heart failure or permanent damage to your organs. The damage on the inside is often so much worse than anything you can see on the outside.
And the impact on the mind is just as brutal. Eating disorders almost always go hand in hand with things like depression and anxiety. They create this constant obsessive loop of thoughts about food and weight, this feeling of guilt or shame, and it usually leads to pulling away from friends and family, becoming totally isolated.
Okay, this is a really tough fact to face, but it's vital that we do. Out of all mental illnesses, eating disorders have one of the highest mortality rates. That just shows you how critical it is that we take this seriously. But, and this is the most important part, they are also treatable.
And that brings us to our final and honestly most crucial section, hope and how to help. Because recovery is 100% possible. And the single biggest factor? Catching it early. Early intervention literally saves lives. So, where does that hope even begin? It starts with one conversation. It begins the moment we break the silence and the secrecy that lets these disorders grow in the dark. This person's story, it says it all. The fear of what people will think, of being judged, it's a huge wall. But what they're saying here is that just reaching out, that was the turning point. Realizing you're not alone, that people want to help you, not judge you, that one moment can change everything.
And the great news is, there is a clear, structured path to getting better. It usually involves a whole team. It starts with therapy, like cognitive behavioral therapy, which helps you identify and change those harmful thought patterns. Then there's family therapy to build a solid support system right at home. Of course, medical care and nutrition counseling are key to making sure the body heals safely. And finally, support groups are so powerful because they connect you with other people who just get it.
Now, we have to be real here. The road to recovery, it's a marathon, not a sprint. There are going to be amazing days, and there are going to be really, really tough days. It takes an incredible amount of strength, but the most important thing to remember is that it is possible. Millions of people have walked this path and are now living full, happy, healthy lives.
And this all leads to the one core message I really want you to take away from this. Your value as a human being has absolutely nothing to do with what you see in the mirror or the number you see on a scale. Your strength, your humor, your creativity, your kindness, that is what defines you. You are enough. Right now, exactly as you are.
If any of this is hitting home, either for you or for someone you care about, please don't wait. You can visit the National Eating Disorders Association at nationaleatingdisorders.org, or you can call their helpline. That number is 1-800-931-2237. It's free, it's confidential. Just remember, taking that first step can save a life. You are not alone in this.